Hello and welcome to another That Random Model. Today's episode, we'll be talking about the Hasegawa 172nd Sv-51, this is supposed to be a Y, Nora type from Macross Zero. Now, Macross is a Japanese anime that is very popular in a lot of parts of the world. In the United States, it is known in its first three generations as Robotech, but this is not Robotech. This is actually Macross, and Macross Zero is one of the trendy ways of saying it's a prequel. So it comes before the events of Macross and Robotech. So excuse me. Even though that Robotech in its form is very similar to the story of Macross, because of licensing, because of those issues, this isn't actually it doesn't even actually follow into the Robotech mold, but it's still a good series. It's still important um, important series nonetheless. Now, SV-51Y, a Cyrillic Y, I believe. A lot of people that are into military aircraft might know SV as Sukhoi. And yes, this is an alternate history Sukhoi 51. Now, the events of Macross Zero take place between 1999 or 2000 and 2008, because Macross starts at 2009. Well, the events that unfold in the show start in the year 2009, 2010. And during the events of 2000 to 2008, a Zentradi battleship crash lands on Earth, and the the Earth Defense Forces, led by a coalition of nations that is led by the UN. They deem that branch of the military UN spacey, like we would have a U.S. Navy, U.S. Army, U.S. Air Force. They have the U.S. spacey fleet, and they head up reverse engineering this alien ship to figure out what its secrets are. And if you're familiar at all with Robotech, one of the secrets in the story is prototechnology or robotechnology, which, if you really look into it, it really isn't explained well and doesn't make much sense. They just refer to it as prototechnology or protoculture or robotechnology, and transforming uh, planes into robots and a certain kind of space flower is the best explanation for that. So anyway, so this is setting up the events of what's going on now. In 2000 to 2008, the Earth was embroiled in a World War III type conflict called the Unification Wars, in which the UN nations were being attacked by anti-UN forces. The anti-UN forces. Now, again, please understand, this is an alternate history. This has nothing to do with any of today's conflicts or what's going on in the world. This is merely a anime from the 80s. This came out, I want to say, in the late 90s or early 2000s. So please understand, I'm not I'm not commenting on anything that's going on in the world today at all. I'm not referencing anything that has happened. This is complete alternate history. This is something that started, like I said, in the 80s. This is something that they, obviously could not have foretold. But the anti-UN forces were a coalition of ex-Soviet, Russian forces, Israeli forces, and I can't remember the third part of the coalition, but it was a lot of remnant nations. It wasn't anything that was what we would see today. Um, Speaking of the decal sheet, just real quick while we're on it, here this plane is, the parts are molded in magenta so that you can recreate this Nora type. Nora Polyansky is the flyer of this specific type. It's kind of considered like the Red Baron of the series, and she has this decorative feather-like decal of for her plane. So that is replicated by a molded in magenta and gray parts, as well as the feather-like decals in gold. Very striking when finished. Very striking when finished. And we went over the instructions. You could see while I was going through that part of the story. So, looking at the kit, it's all in a bag. Let's open the bag. Now, during the events of the 9-year-long unification war from 2000 2008, the alien technology that was recovered by the UN forces, part of that was stolen by the anti-UN forces, and so they gathered information on how to little ASMR right there. You like that, huh? Yeah. So while the UN was looking at the technology on the ship, some anti-UN forces espionage stole some sensitive data, and they were able to construct through Sukhoi, not a Russian state, but from remnants of the ex Soviet Russia Sukhoi division, they were able to manufacture or reverse engineer a transformative jet fighter. Now, if you're at all familiar with the original Macross series, or Robotech in the United States, the planes that they had were based on real life F-14s at the time, and so you had a very neat and very popular jet fighter that had been made to transform. And this is right about the times that Transformers was coming out, G.I. Joe was coming out. This is something that was really huge and very popular. I was a kid when this came out, and it was something that I loved. I love to this day. And I haven't seen the series, Macross Zero. It's, I believe it's a 4-part. I think each episode is between 30 and 50 minutes long. And so it ends up being like a 4-hour movie, basically, but it's about four or six episodes. And it tells the story of the events that led up to the events that started in Robotech or Macross. And so these anti-UN space forces, they developed this fighter, and they tried to attack and recover an alien artifact, which they called the Birdman. Again, I'm not familiar at all with the story. I really like the toys. I really like the technology, and so when I look at something, I tend to judge it by the technology or sometimes the story. It depends on what it is. So anyway, so here's some of the pieces. It looks like some really interesting detail. This is your engine nozzle. Getting back to the hero aircraft in Robotech are called Valkyries, and like again, they're based on the F-14 fighter, something that was popularized by the movie Top Gun. Top Gun, and this is not really based on any real life counterpart. It's kind of rudimentarily based on the Sukhoi 27, I believe. I think that's the flanker. I was doing research on this earlier because, like I said, I'm not too familiar with the details, but we're going to do something a little different with this anyway. Obviously, of course, we're going to do something different. It's me. Is this your first day? It's not my first day, but yeah, we're going to do something different with this. Now, getting back to the story that this is based on. So, in Robotech, the vertiech fighters, also called the Valkyries, were something that had engines. Excuse me. It had thermonuclear jet engines. I have no clue what that means. I mean, obviously, I know what the words thermonuclear and jet engine mean, but together, thermonuclear jet, I don't get that. But anyway, it made it so that the planes could fly in the atmosphere like a normal plane and also in space. Again, this is a show. It wasn't targeted to kids in the United States. It was kind of targeted for kids, but in Japan, anime is actually kind of replaces live action. So it was something that was actually for a lot of adults and young adults, teenagers, that kind of crowd. Whereas your younger audience would be more drawn toward something like, I don't know, for the sake of argument, Astro Boy or something. But anyway, so this this the aircraft in Macross, the Valkyries, had these thermonuclear jet engines that were tucked into the legs. Basically, here's your nozzles. Basically, I think these are your legs right here. So they had them so that they could fly in atmosphere, they could fly in space. But in the prequel, the Macross Zero version, these are enlarged to have non-nuclear engines. They're traditional ducted fan engines, but what it did was is it made, because these are supposed to be prototypes, so it made the legs a lot longer and a lot bigger, and the result of that is that this plane, and Hasegawa makes a excellent series of Macross, the Valkyrie, the Phoenix, which is the prequel Valkyrie, this, and a whole bunch of other series in leapfrogging into other Macross series. They make excellent detail and planes in these series that obviously would line up with each other. And this thing is just enormous when compared to the Valkyrie and the Phoenix. So something that was actually kind of rudimentary there. But again, getting back to the story. So this plane, I was doing some research. This plane focused on stealth technology, which is, I think, kind of interesting and forward thinking at the time. But also, it had the ability to launch from a submarine. You didn't see that coming, did you? No, let me show you. This little hat trick right here. It's not here, but right. Let me see. So this obviously has the ability to be made with the landing gear raised or lowered. I love it when you get that. There you go. So this also allows you to either have it displayed in flight or landed. And there are different points on the wings to have articulate like a carrier-based fighter. If you're not familiar with a U.S. Navy jet fighter, when they land on an aircraft carrier, a lot of times the wings can be folded up after flight, before and after flight, for storage. You can do that with the F-18 Hornets, which they still use right now. I want to say the F-35 Thunderbolt has that ability. F-14s had the swing wings, and not only was that for different flight characteristics as you go, but also the compactness for when it's stored on a aircraft carrier. So that kind of had that built into its functionality to begin with. But this has the ability to have its wings folded up when it's on the sub. So I think like right here, these would fold up this way, and you can't do it on this kit. But basically, that's again part of the research that I did on this. so that you have these little spindly and fragile looking wings folded up against itself when it's stored in a submarine. And what it does is your doors of the submarine open up, it floods the compartment, and the plane launches on boosters. And I do not know. This looks like something that fires something. So I don't know if the boosters were something that was attached to this. I know they have something called a ghost booster, which is right here, but I think that's something they use later for atmospheric flight. It could be the launch. I don't know, but the research said that these launched with boosters. They from about 30 meters under the water. It comes up out of the water like a Polaris missile, and then fires off its regular engines. And so now these take over. And like I said, these are ginormous, oversized, regular ducted fan engines. So a pretty spectacular design. And I have a theory that because this is a Russian alternate history plane, that it has a state-of-the-art mind control interface where you can actually control the plane with your mind. But I'm betting that only works if you think in Russian. So who knows? Anyway, that's our unboxing. That's a review. I always call these reviews, and I never really look at it too carefully and say, "Oh, look at that edge. It looks good." What I'm going to tell you is I've looked at many of these Hasegawas, and I've seen this kit before. This is a fantastic looking kit. It looks like all the parts, and Hasegawa is known for all these parts lining up pretty good together. They fold up pretty good. They display nice. You prime it, you paint it, you put it over in the corner with a something that keeps the dust off of it, and you're going to have a model that you're going to really love to show off. So this isn't something that I'm really concerned about saying, oh well, this is a bad kit, or beware of this part, or it's not an AMT kit, which are notoriously difficult for experts to put together and make look right, but boy, somehow they do. So if you look at the detail in this, and again, I've sat and looked at the instructions for at least a couple hours, and there's a lot of gems in here, like the position of the landing. This is a lot of good workmanship. Hasegawa is known for that. Hasegawa has come out recently with a lot more model kits, uh, obviously, for cars, 124 scale cars. We went over the MR2 last year. That was something at the time was only a year old, and Hasegawa has been making these kits for decades. So Hasegawa has come out with a lot more kits. There's a new uh, Mini Cooper. There's other cars in the series. I haven't finished editing yet, but there's a Nissan Pulsar, not the United States version. It's one actually that's Japan, Australia, and a lot of Asian markets and Europe. There's a Nissan Pulsar I did as a Gran Turismo Falcon Racing team. There is a lot of cars that are coming out now. They're kind of revamping their historic line series and making I want to say like a daily driver series type thing. It's not really called the daily driver series, but there's a lot of cars that you would associate with boring everyday cars. Corollas, some Nissans. Um, there's a new 300ZX, I think, in the line. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there that looks fantastic. Which brings me to kind of a little teaser for what's coming in a few weeks. Is that wouldn't it be interesting if Hasegawa and some of the other car manufacturers could be measured across a common denominator? I wonder if there's anything out there, he said knowingly, foreshadowing, that all of the major Japanese car makes make. we're going to have to wait and see. Anyway, that's my review of this kit. This is something I'm looking forward to building. This is something that is coming soon. I keep saying that with most of them. I've hit a little bit of a building snag. I'm kind of in a little transition right now, but we're trying to get some stuff done. We're trying to get some things made, and this is coming up hopefully within the year. We will be working on it. Of course, it's not going to be this. If anybody wants a thing of decals, let me know. Probably going to have a lot of that left over, because I don't know if you can see it, but a little sneak peek is what's in here are the decals I'm going to use for the exterior markings. So that's the Sukhoi 51Y, a supercharged version of the Sukhoi 51A, which was the prototype of this. It's from Macross Zero. I couldn't tell you anything about that other than what I found in research, because my gosh, finding that in the United States right now is just a nightmare. You'd think with all this technology and internet that something like that would be more readily available. If it is, I haven't found it. It's probably on Retro Crush or Crunchyroll or something, but I don't have subscriptions to Crunchyroll. But but that is tonight's video. Here's here's some images from the show. This is it during its transforming mode. It transforms into a robot. Some action scenes. Supposedly, this one in the research, this plane right here, flown by Nora Polyansky, she took out an entire squadron of F-14s by herself. So this isn't something to be messed with. It's a pretty interesting thing, at least in show lore. Anyway, that's all we have for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching, and real quick, I'm going to let everybody go. Have a very nice night. Thank you so much for watching, and please tell me what you think of Robotech Macross, and what would you do with this? Would you like to see it painted magenta with the gold feathers, or would you like to would you do something else in mind, and what would that be? Thank you very much.